I don't even know how I'm going to talk about this, honestly. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about it, about the state, the game. I'm not talking about like me tiring or anything. Well, let's chill with this. All right. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what I thought about the game at the moment. And I have a very unique position, I would say. I'm in a Discord where a lot of Tylo talk comes about, talking about kind of the state of the game and how people like the set compared to last sets and what's lacking, what's done well. I think before we get too much farther, I want to say that I think that the set was a clear upgrade from set 2 in a lot of different ways, except for in one, which we'll address very quickly. Before we get to that, I want to say, ideally what happens with a good set is you have the ability to play a wide variety of different compositions, and you're forced to make choices on re-evaluating and reevaluating and putting in and readjusting your board as many rounds as possible. I would say if you do it every round, that's probably too much for the average player. And if that's optimal, it's probably bad. But for the most part, it's like if you're forced to adjust or at least rethink your board given a different unit given into your shop or a different position that you have to play against another person, I think that's good for the game. I think for all intents and purposes that the early game does that a lot. So when you're in stage 2, you have to constantly buy a unit and sell a unit, buy a unit, sell it. Okay, I got to put 2 Brawler, put in 2 Vanguard, put in this, put in this, put in this. Riot's recent changes in the last patch, buffing 2 Vanguard, buffing 2 Infiltrator, really helps in that regard because it allows you to put the small synergies in early matter a lot. And you're forced to make a lot more choices early about the relative power of certain things. And that's good. That's really, really good for the game. Where I feel like this set tends to lack compared to last set, which is really kind of weird, is the fact that I think your decision making kind of in the mid to late game actually is non-existent in this set. Because right now, like 6 synergies are really, really optimal. And so even after they tended to nerf 6 synergies, the legendary units in this set are not powerful enough standalone to warrant putting them in. Which is really different from last set. Last set, you had like fucking broken, like just disgusting units. Taric 2, no crystal, no problem. Throw that shit in there. You put Nami 2, you probably throw that. Singe 2, no alchemist, no point. Doesn't fucking matter. I'm gonna throw this unit with Morellas in my comp anyways. So I would say like last set had a lot of late game kind of nuance where you kind of constantly put comps in, comps out. And that should tell you, if you remember playing that set, one of the top comps that people always talked about was they used to play, God, what was it called? They used to play Azir, and they call it Summoner Sins. And it was a top comp for like almost every patch and near the end. And when when you had to explain Summoner Sins, it was literally you fast 8 and you play the best board available in every single situation. And when people tried to learn some sins, I will promise you, people failed completely because some sins was a composition that required you to fast 8, and require you to know like how to readjust your board constantly to lose the least amount of life to get to 4-3 the healthiest. And only like really good players were capable of doing that. And they bleed out, not trying this comp, and people were just like, what the fuck, you know? Or they wouldn't know how to roll it down at 3 and be able to stabilize and then re-econ back to be able to get to 8 correctly. And then afterwards, you were forced to put in live units. There were many different variations of that comp. And I think that comp, for a lot of people, really enjoyed because it was just really, really powerful. But you had to do a lot to make that comp work. I think in the current set, there isn't that kind of like decision making, you know? Because again, the legendaries are so weak. A lot of the power of the legendaries are tied in with the synergies. So 6 Cyber, Echo without Cyber just isn't a fucking unit. Like the fact that last patch mech, I wasn't buying Echo to replace Kha'Zix, and because realistically I wouldn't want to waste 15 gold to buy Echo 2 because it's not a big damage increase, and I don't have Cyber. Like that's crazy that I wouldn't add a 5 cost unit in there. Like in 6 Darkstar, you know, I think it's really weird that like I would want to put in Mordekaiser 2 over like an Aesol 2 or like almost an MF2, you know, sometimes without upgrades, without items, because it feels like it's very like not worth it. And I think a lot of it is like either it's the gold investment is too much, where you need like mercenary upgrades to make the unit viable by itself, or it's just tied so much into the synergy that you won't play it unless you're in the synergy. That makes like the late game decision making really fucking boring. It's like if you the fact that you can like type like fucking me meg, which is the same thing as last patch, right? You type me egg roll, like, you just egg roll and you just don't do nothing. That's okay. I think reroll comps should have their place in the game, no problem. A protector reroll is fine, you know, mech reroll actually is fine. I have no problem with the mech reroll comp. I think the biggest problem is the fact that you're not given much decision making in this set, especially when you go into late game. And sometimes mid game. I know I was reading Dysic's problems, and he's like rank 1 in EU, or has been. He's like rank 1, top 3, really good fucking player, by the way. And one of the things he pointed out was the fact that there isn't a good mid game carry. So like in the earlier sets, there was like what, Morgana, Kennen, Aatrox. You had Azir, right? Azir is fucking probably broken, like super strong. You had Nocturne before, you know, Mortdog just like kind of crushed his kneecaps. And in this set, you really only had Shaco as a good 3 cost. Everything else is like very synergy tied or just not a good carry. Your carries mid game right now are Darius, and that's crazy. Like, why is the best mid game unit fucking a gold generator? You know, why the fuck is my mid game off that? And it's a little bit better now, right? Because you're able to run infiltrators, you're able to run the like a little bit more stuff to Vanguard to splash it better. But like the general problem still remains that like there lacks like a little bit like of decision making mid game because the carries don't exist, and it's really, you're like kind of repositioning your front lines. You're shifting out your front lines a lot, right? Whether you're playing protector, you're playing brawler, you're playing whatever. The back line's like, who the fuck? What are you doing for your back line? You have Lucian 2 and Darius 2. Okay, cool. That's your back line. You have Shiv, Zaya, you know, as your backline, but like you don't really have like a strong mid game kind of carry. I think we're talking about like I'm talking about like what I think about the state of the game. You came in a little late. The TLDRs, I feel like there's less decision making nuance in this set than there was in the last set, especially when it pertains to late game. Mid game also to some degree, and I kind of quoted Dysic, the EU like rank 3 player, as a person who says there isn't really a strong mid game carry. And to be honest, like I said, set 3 had like Azir, which is probably too strong, right? You built like every late game comp around Azir because he's OP. But there doesn't seem to be that like, kind of Morgana Kennen kind of standalone carry, and it feels kind of bad. It feels like kind of when you get to mid-late game decision making, it kind of slows down because you're just jamming synergies. And for legendaries, it feels very bad late game because they're not strong enough standalone. So a lot of their power is tied to their synergy, whether it's 6 rebels or whether it's what am I talking about? 6 cyber. Like you never pick up Echo. If I'm playing mech infiltrator, I'm not wasting 15 gold for Echo 2. Unless it's treasure trove and I can throw items on him. Just it's not worth it. I'd rather spend that gold rolling for Fizz 3, right? So it just that's how I kind of see the set right now, where I think that even though there were a lot of bad things about set 2, the good thing about set 2 is I think they did a really good job at that kind of like forcing that kind of nuance and making you kind of work for your wins. You know, when people ask me, how do I get better than top 4? Usually I'm just like, it's either positioning or item difference, and that's it, you know? It's like, I don't even ask them about their skill. It's like, well, maybe you didn't adjust the right units. Maybe you didn't like put this shit in when you could put this shit in. Realistically, it's like, well, if you're playing 6 Darkstar, you know all the units that go in, right? You probably put the items on the right units. If you don't, like, okay, that's difficult for me to work around. But like, you know where to put the units. You kind of position them here, and like, okay, well, did you hit Zera too, you know? And like, sure, there's a positioning nuance around Shroud and all that stuff, but yeah. I think that's kind of what set 3 is lacking at the moment. I'm hoping in the future, when there's going to be that expansion to this set, right, that they add like some sort of new synergy where kind of that helps the mid game, as well as maybe adjust. I don't know. The late, it feels really strange to ask for better late game synergies. I think it's the worst thing about this is I think it's a really difficult problem to handle, right? Because it's really difficult because I think the 6 synergies help players get into the game. A lot of people wanted to replay TFT set 3 because they had a lot of old units that they remembered, and a lot of the 6 synergies were really good chase synergies to go after. It's very clear for the casual player to be like, okay, I'm gonna go for this, and this is the comp, and they're happy with that. It's really only the people that grind the shitload that they're like, I want a little bit more out of the game, you know? That's how I feel. And so she lists from a podcast tonight. Oh, I think it's pretty fair, you know? I gave GVA a lot of credit. I think GVA is probably one of the best players. Like a lot of people say they're versatile players, but they're not. Does that make sense? Like the reason why, like they don't play a lot of different comps, and I don't mean to point fingers at anyone, but there may be a person in chat that plays a lot of very specific comps. And I think GVA is really interesting because he has a very specific, like he tends to play a lot of what he's given more so than I think a lot of other streamers. So I think he's like one of the most versatile players I know. Because I when I watch him, I'm like, holy shit, you decided to make like a mid-game protector pivot that I don't think many people would have done in this situation, you know? So like I think he's really good. I think I learned the most about the mid-game from him, actually. It's really interesting. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. Like it's not really not that much I wanted to say about the set. It's just like I think that's kind of where the difficulties lie. And so right now it's like the patch did a lot for like the small synergies. You're kind of able to play a lot more. You have a lot more decision making, or a little bit more decision making in the mid game, right? You can put in 2 infiltrators more. You can put in 2 Vanguard more, and the 2 Vanguard's probably a little overtuned. Let's be real, but I like that they added that. However, I think that they're still lacking something in kind of the mid to late to kind of make the set feel great. Because when I get to mid to late, I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? What am I doing here? You know, what am I actually doing here? Because it always feels very homogenous. Like I'm doing the same thing. If you come on the show and make your top 10, I'm not a good enough player to do that. I'm gonna be honest. I don't play against the good players enough to where I can give good feedback on that. You still haven't insulted more dog to increase your Reddit post volatility? That's not gonna happen, dude. I think I'm very grateful to have someone like Mortdog in the community. I actually think like he's part of the reason, alongside someone who already left their division. The reason why I all in on TFT is because of those 2 people. After I sat down and talked with them, like when I first played the game in their playtest, I thought the devs were people that really understood what they wanted from the game. And because of that, I was like, I'm fucking in. I'm all in. So I made my graphics. I planned out what I was going to do the launch week, and I played a shitload. And even to this day, I feel like Mort's job title should actually have like, it should be like this long. Like this is like what he does, like player, like this is, he's a developer for the game. And then he's like, but he's also kind of like PR. He's kind of comms as well. He's kind of like he's not even like, he's like public comms. He's also like high elo player comms. Like I see a lot more of him than the average person. Cause like he's in like high elo discourse talking about the game. And when those people come in and they fucking rant, they're just like, are you fucking kidding me more? I got a 0 item opener and I got no 2 stars and you gave me Lilac Nebula and then you gave me this fucking defensive care, so fuck you. He has to be like, yeah, dude, I'm sorry, you're just unlucky. And like, for all those people that kind of give him shit, like, like I have a lot of respect for him. Honestly, the game wouldn't be where it is without him. And I think a lot more people, I'll put it this way, I think a lot more people would have quit in set 2 if he hadn't stuck himself in the position that he is. I think the game might not have even gotten to set 3 in like a healthy condition without him.